Hi, I'm Paul from FitLab Toronto, and today we're going to cover everything you need to know about omega fatty acids. Sure, omega fatty acids are not the sexiest topic, but what you are about to learn today is going to be useful to you for the rest of your life. So let's get started. What are omega fatty acids? They're what we would call an essential fatty acid. This means the body doesn't make them and can't make them, so we have to take them in through some dietary form. So why do we call them omega fatty acids? The way we can explain this is I can illustrate for you what a fatty acid looks like. A fatty acid is nothing more than a long chain of carbon atoms. So each carbon in your fatty acid is linked via a bond. Now if you look at a carbon atom and it has nothing but single bonds, we call that saturated. We all know and we've all heard of saturated fats and unsaturated fats. Saturated fats are things like butter. You can always tell what a saturated fat is because it's going to be solid at room temperature, such as butter. Now, if we were to take this same chain of carbons and add in a double bond, so we have a double bond here. Now, if you don't understand this, this is just to give you a generalized understanding. But if we add that double bond, that makes this unsaturated. Now, if you're wondering why saturated versus unsaturated comes into play, it's because each carbon has a certain amount of hydrogen atoms. Okay? Now, if you have a single bond, that means we can completely saturate each carbon with the maximum number of hydrogen bonds. That's why we call it saturated. Now, if we take a double bond here and link these two carbon atoms, okay, all of a sudden, so these two carbons would be the same, but if we have this double bond here, then we can only add one hydrogen to each carbon. So now it's unsaturated, and that's all you really need to understand about saturated versus unsaturated. Now, to help you understand omega-3 and omega-6, we can draw these carbons in a different format. We can draw them sort of in a three-dimensional format. Okay, so that's the exact same thing as the carbon chain we drew earlier. It's just in a three-dimensional format. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to draw this twice for you. Now, let's go through why we call it omega-3 versus omega-6. So this will be our omega-3 and this will be our omega-6 fatty acid. So how we determine if it's a 3 versus a 6 is simple. From the first carbon, which we call CH3, we count these. We call that carbon 1, we call this carbon 2, this carbon 3, this carbon 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. All the way up to usually a 20 carbon long fatty acid. So an omega-3 is going to have a double bond on its third carbon. So we count 1, 2, 3. So we have that unsaturated fatty acid omega-3. So the bond is here between the third and fourth carbon. Now, if we're talking about omega-6, we do the same thing. We can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the double bond on this is going to be on the sixth carbon atom. And that's all you really need to know about omega-3 and omega-6. I wanted you to understand that because if you can visualize these things, it kind of makes it make a little more sense as opposed to just throwing pills down your throat because people tell you to. What you need to know about omega-3s and omega-6s is that taking them in the right amount and the right ratio will give you the best potential to reach the benefits that we say omega-3s and 6 have. Now this, if you take it in supplement form, will come to you. The best ratio is a 2-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Okay, but don't really worry about that. What you need to know are the basic benefits of getting your essential fatty acids. So some of the basic benefits are they're very necessary for our skin, nails, and hair. If you notice that you have dry, brittle skin, dry, brittle nails, dry, brittle hair, you probably aren't getting enough omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Okay? They are an important component of your cell membranes. Now, if you're not a science person, that doesn't mean anything to you, but you need to realize your entire body is made up of billions or trillions of cells, and these are very important in making sure those cells have the proper structure, the proper strength, the proper format. Okay? Bodily functions. Fats, especially omega fats, are very important in ensuring that all your bodily functions are happening properly. Okay? Circulation. Circulation is highly dependent on a good number of essential fatty acids. So circulation means things like heart health, okay? Means things like decreasing plaque buildup, right? We don't want plaque to build up because that can lead to things like heart attack. It can lead to things like stroke, okay? And we have brain function. The brain is made up almost entirely of fat. So you need these essential fatty acids to make sure that it's functioning at its optimal levels. So now I want to go through some of the very specific benefits that you might get if you take omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Now some studies show that there's a stronger association between some of these benefits. Some studies show that there's less of a relationship between the benefits. But what we do know is that omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids do provide us with lots of benefits that outweigh the negatives. So it's important that you're taking these and taking the intake of these fats seriously. So the first thing it does that you need to know about is heart health. Okay, we mentioned that it improves circulation, it improves heart health, decreases plaque buildup in the walls of the arteries in your heart, so it decreases your risk of heart attack, it can decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease, heart failure, things like that. Okay. The second very important thing that we know is that it helps with inflammation. Now, if you're into fitness and bodybuilding, after you work out, your body is going to go through a state of inflammation because you've worked the muscles, it's going to cause injury, and you get inflamed. If you take fatty acids regularly, you're going to notice a decrease in this inflammation. It's also shown to decrease the inflammation associated with certain types of arthritis, specifically rheumatoid arthritis, very debilitating type of arthritis. Fatty acids, there have been studies that show that it can decrease the inflammation, therefore improving the quality of life for rheumatoid arthritis patients. Okay. Also, cancers. Some studies show that fatty acids taken on a regular basis can decrease the risks of breast cancer, can decrease the risks of colon cancer, and it can decrease the risk of prostate cancer. Okay, these are all really, really common cancers. So we see that there's a lot of benefits that we can get just by taking some fatty acids, eating some fish, taking supplements on a daily basis. Now, where do we get these fatty acids? This is really important. So if you're taking notes, make sure you pay attention right now. So omega-3 fatty acids, let's make a list here. So omega-3 and omega-6. Some of the best sources of omega-3 are oily fish. Now, oily fish, the two that come to mind are salmon and mackerel. These are a couple oily fish that are loaded with omega-3s. Raw nuts. Raw nuts. Now, specifically for omega-3s, the best are walnuts. And finally, the last really good source of omega-3 is vegetable oil. Okay, so oily fish, raw nuts, vegetable oil. 3 great ways to get some omega-3s. Now, omega-6s, some of the best sources, olives and olive oil. Okay, that's why we always say use olive oil when you're cooking. Okay, make sure you use olive oil instead of saturated forms of oil like sunflower oil or coconut oil, things like that. Okay, pistachios are really rich in omega-6s. Okay, so raw pistachios. Sunflower seeds are also really, really rich in omega-6s. And something to keep in mind, most nuts. Now, most raw nuts are very great sources of omega-6 fatty acids. So that's why we always say make sure you're eating plenty of nuts. However, don't go overboard. They are still very rich in fat, which means there's a lot of calories in them, which means they can make you fat if you eat too many. You have to be really careful. So a small handful is always going to get you everything you need without giving you more calories than you need. Okay, and that's all you really need to know about omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So now you understand the benefits, where to get it, and the actual underlying biochemistry. There's one more type you might be thinking about, and that is the omega-9. Okay, we've all heard omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9. The reason why omega-9 is a little unique is that it's not essential. What this means is that our body has a process whereby we can make omega-9s. So they're not essential. Okay, they are, however, very important in preventing heart disease. Okay, so heart disease, they can lower cholesterol. Okay, they can decrease plaque buildup in the arteries of the heart. And these are all really beneficial things for your heart. Okay, they're also very important in keeping your immune system healthy, which is really important to make sure you're not sick, because the less sick you are, the better quality of life you'll have. Now, some great sources for omega-9, and we all probably know this one, avocado. Everyone always hears about how healthy an avocado is. They give you omega-9s. Okay? Most nuts, again, give you omega-9s, just like the omega-6s give you, nuts give you lots of omega-6. And finally, olives and olive oil. So you can see there's a lot of overlap between sources that give you both omega-6 and omega-9. You just need to realize omega-6 you need on your own, you can't make it, and omega-9s we can make. Okay, so there's your look at omega fatty acids. Really, really important. So a really quick review. Nuts and healthy oils are your best sources. Okay, oily fish such as salmon and mackerel are fantastic sources as well. Supplementation is a really affordable option, and it gives you the precise mixture of omega-3 and omega-6s for optimal health. Okay? Don't forget we have many, many benefits. Cardiovascular health, immune protection, possibly lowering the risk of some cancers. So, now that you know that, go out, get your daily omegas. Okay? Make sure you take them on a regular basis so that you reap all the benefits that they have to offer. Okay? Thanks for joining us for today's FitLab discussion. We'll talk to you next time.